involving children in missions. Did you know that research studies have confirmed again the importance of the early childhood years? The basic traits of a child's character are formed before age 6, and major interests in life are taking permanent shape by the age of 12. According to the George Barna Research Group, children between the ages of 5 and 13 have a 32% probability of accepting Jesus Christ as their Savior. That likelihood drops to 4% for teenagers between the ages 14 and 18. Children are most likely to hear God's call to full-time Christian ministry, such as to be missionaries and ministers and the like, between the ages of 4 to 14. This comes from Christianity Today. Missiologists refer to this period of time as the 4-14 window. Biblical counsels on compassion include James 1 verse 27. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, it says, to look after orphans and widows in their distress. Carry each other's burdens, and this way you will fulfill the law of Christ, comes from Galatians 6 verse 2. And then Romans 15 verse 1 says, we who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak and not to please ourselves. Ellen White, on the other hand, says some things on compassion as well. The principles of heaven are to be brought into the government of the home. Every child is to be taught to be polite, compassionate, loving, pitiful, courteous, and tender-hearted, from Child Guidance, page 143. So why involve children in missions? Well, the Bible tells us to do it. Missions helps children identify the needs of others and see how they can make a difference in the world. So we must sow the seeds of mission interest at an early age if we expect to reap missionary recruits and strong mission supporters in the years ahead. You see, children are sensitive to God, so they can begin to learn about God's heart for missions at a very early age. Children easily understand the concept of compassion, and responding to the needs of their world help children to develop into caring adults. An excellent example of children getting involved in missions is the project of the Owino brothers. While their friends are busy with sport and computer games and band practice, brothers Brian, Calvin, and David Owino are busily collecting empty soda cans. They launched the project BCD Cans for AIDS orphans in sub-Sahara Africa back in 1999. It's an amazing feat for twins Calvin and Brian, 14, and David, 10, who live in Framingham, Massachusetts. Born in the village of Malala, Kenya, the three brothers went to the United States in 1999 with their parents, as father Martin Owino was studying for a master's degree in public health at Boston University. They have watched their parents sending money to friends and relatives with HIV/AIDS back in Kenya. But in 1999, when two of their cousins aged 8 and 12 died of AIDS, and Calvin and Brian were shook so much, it struck them for the very first time that it could happen to many more of their cousins back in Kenya. And they said, there must be something we can do to help. The twins said, together. What can we do, they said, for those children way across the ocean? We can't work. We don't earn a salary. We are only children. Say, how about gathering trash and turning them into treasures, suggested Brian excitedly. Calvin said, let's talk it over with Dad. Maybe he can give us some ideas. After brainstorming with their parents for a few days, they came up with the idea of conducting a cans and change drive to help African AIDS orphans. And so in 1999, they proudly launched the BCD Cans for AIDS Orphans in Sub-Saharan Africa. BCD stands for the initials of their names. The project was founded on the principles of Undugu and Harambee, which are Swahili words that mean brotherliness and pulling resources together for a common good. Calvin said, we'd like other kids to live longer and have some fun, as well as just like we do. Brian said, they need our help. We're supposed to love everyone around us, said David. Jesus said, they are our brothers and our sisters. Indeed, such brotherly love did shine through the lives of Calvin, Brian, and David as they went about enthusiastically collecting the cans. They contacted schools, their neighbors, and the nearby grocery stores for a place to put their boxes for the cans. They collected hundreds and thousands of aluminium cans every day after school, cashed in the deposits, and sent money to AIDS orphans, the AIDS orphan projects in Africa. At the same time, their father helped to conduct public seminars on AIDS awareness, as well as promote this project to involve the community. There were days when the three brothers had to make many trips lugging those cans because the family car was just too small to carry the hundreds of bags of cans. Another problem they faced was to find sufficient storage place for all the cans, as you can imagine. But these obstacles did not deter them from their goal. Rain or shine, the BCD Cans Drive continued. Brian, Calvin, and David have raised $33,000 in 4 years and have helped more than 400 AIDS orphans. The Malala AIDS Orphans Project has funded the construction of a brick building that houses a soup kitchen which provides for at least one hot meal a day for the orphans. The project also funded school fees, clothes, medical care for the orphans, as well as the digging of wells to provide for clean water. Furthermore, income-generating skills such as tailoring, brick making, and watch repairs were taught to the older orphans so that they can earn a living for themselves. But above all, the caregivers share the gospel with the orphans at the orphanage, helping them to find true meaning in Jesus. The African continent is in crisis. Kenya alone has 2.5 million HIV patients, and a recent report predicted that AIDS could kill as many as 7 million South Africans by 2010. United States Secretary General Kofi Annan is seeking to raise up to $10 billion for a global AIDS fund. The world must respond to help those innocent children whose parents have died from AIDS. The Owino brothers have responded to missions in their own small way, a child's way. But little is big with love and faith. In the summer of 2004, Calvin, Brian, and David were given recognition by the Massachusetts House of Representatives and the State Senate, each receiving a citation of recognition for their humanitarian spirit. They were again honored through the Boston Celtics Heroes Among Us program for their work helping AIDS orphans in Kenya. Yes, children have a natural gift of sharing. Let's inspire them to get involved in the work of compassion. Let's rally our children around the world to practice undugu for Jesus. For Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it for me." Matthew 25, verse 40. So what are some of the lessons learned from mission involvement? Compassion, empathy, willingness to share. Learning to pray for others. Children can learn to pray for missionaries in specific countries as well as pray for mission projects that they participate in. Or they learn to pray for the children of missionaries overseas or those in difficult areas. They learn generosity in giving. Parents whose children have been involved in missionary projects or mission trips testify that their children become more sensitive to the needs of the less fortunate and are more generous in donating their allowances or pocket money to help out. In fact, they are more enthusiastic and passionate in fundraising for missionary projects. They also learn the appreciation of other cultures. Missionary kids like Brad Milligan, who has lived in Zimbabwe, Rachel Shupak in Kazakhstan, and Lisa Frist in Brazil agreed unanimously that living in a foreign land with cultures so different from their own have many benefits. Growing up among kids from other cultures has helped them to appreciate people of diverse cultures, customs, and languages. In fact, they have grown quite fond of their adopted cultures and homes. And so involving children in missions can deepen their appreciation of other cultures. Children involved in missions learn to trust in God. When children participate, you see, in mission projects at home or abroad, they may be confronted with problems in some situations when they have to trust God to find a solution for them. Once, a group of preteens went on a mission trip to Guatemala to help build a church. And when the brick machine broke down, they prayed that God will send someone to help to fix it. They learned to trust God in this difficult moment, and God did send some mechanic to help them. Ellen White writes in Testimonies, volume 4, page 554, "All who profess to be children of God should unceasingly bear in mind that they are missionaries, in their labors brought in connection with all classes of minds." She goes on and she writes in That I May Know, page 42, "Whole armies of children may come under Christ's banner as missionaries, even in their childhood years. Never repulse the desire of children to do something for Jesus. Never quench their ardor for working in some way for the Master." So what are some ideas for involving children in missions? The list can be very long, because there are many ideas that you can try to involve children in missions. Following now, we'll spend a few moments looking at some suggestions, some ideas, but you can of course always be creative to come up with other better ideas of your own. For one, the first example is have a mission camp. Such camps can take place during a weekend or during the holidays, when children can spend time together for a couple of days to participate in mission activities. They will get to listen to stories of mission heroes, and they will also get an opportunity to interact with real missionaries who are home, perhaps on furlough. They will also play games that will lead them to appreciate missions. It is the purpose, you see, of mission camps to inspire youngsters to be actively involved in missions. Another idea is to have a mission festival or a mission fair. This is usually a fun weekend. A mission festival can take place on a Sunday or a Sabbath in any local church, with members coming out to support the children. Children can participate by making exhibits that show the different people from their church who are serving as missionaries overseas. They can chart that display to have charts that display the countries they want to do missionary work in, and maps showing the mission projects their children will get involved in, perhaps. One could also have at these festivals games and fun activities of other countries that are introduced to the children. Examples of different types of food, maybe from various cultures, are also introduced to children as a means to helping them to get a feel for the understanding of other cultures. Another idea is to have a mission newsletter. Help the children to produce a monthly or bi-weekly newsletter. This could be fun to inform members of the church about missionary projects done by the children in the community. And in this way, children can help illustrate or write brief news about what they have done. Another idea is to run mission projects. Encourage children to adopt a project to help the mission field. You see, children can raise funds maybe, or collect items like old clothes, toys, books, etc. for the project. Join hands maybe with ADRA to help disaster victims of hurricanes, tornadoes, or tsunamis around the world. Another idea is to have mission clubs, organizations where children that meet regularly for fun activities about missions and participate in live action projects. And some examples of this include CIA, Children in Action, or GA, Girls in Action, or Mission Kids. The ideas are endless. Another one includes to have a mission prayer calendar. Hang a large mission calendar in the Sabbath school room or classroom, and then have children help to pen in a scripture verse for each day of the month that teaches them about serving others, doing missions like Jesus did, etc. And then list down the names of missionaries on the calendar. They can be friends of the children's family, or they are members of the church who have gone overseas to serve. But encourage the children to pray for these missionaries, their children, as well as their mission needs. You can also provide prayer requests cards with pictures of missionaries or missionary kids. Always, of course, print the names. Another idea is to have children's missions books. Always encourage children to read different mission stories. They are true stories. Have them present book reviews. Have children present puppet plays or skits about the stories. Record their reviews on video. Children love that. Another idea is to have mission trips. This is a fun one. Take children on mission trips nearby or overseas if they are older. After, when they get back home, they can give a report and share their thoughts on what it is like to be a missionary. Another idea is to have a missionary speaker. You invite the missionary or the missionary family to come and tell their story, and include the children. Have the missionary family dress up in the costumes of the country they serve in, or the children can also dress up like them. Make a radio program to interview the missionary. The ideas list is endless. The other one I want to tell you about is compassion ministries. Encourage children to participate in compassion ministries to their local community. Helping at a local shelter or volunteering at a soup kitchen provides opportunities for children to develop love and desire to minister, and later as a missionary. Other ideas for involving children in mission include post a world map in an area of that's very visible. Place a pin in the places where you have mission involvement. Gather a special mission offering once a month. Or perhaps ask children to identify and pray for people who they know that do not go to church. More ideas. Memorize Psalm 67, verse 3 to 4. Read the book of Jonah. Talk about Jonah's missionary service. Send birthday cards to missionaries and MKs or ministers' kids. Pray for the unreached people groups. Interview an international student. Learn phrases in a foreign language. Hold a walkathon to raise funding for a mission project. Jesus' commission for us to preach the gospel throughout the world includes the children. Involve them now. Tomorrow's missionaries begin with today's children.